The next Napa Valley wine that I'm buying comes from Howell Mountain. Dunn Vineyards is one of the pioneers on Howell Mountain. Randy Dunn started Dunn Vineyards way back in 1979, at the same time that he was the winemaker for Caymus. While Randy is still certainly very much involved with Dunn Vineyards, Randy's son Mike has worked for the winery for many years as well and is now in charge of winemaking. Significantly, the Dunn wines are still very much made in the same classic Napa Valley style as when Randy was in charge of winemaking, but Mike made an important change to the oak barrel maturation program that has resulted in the wines being a little bit more approachable at an earlier age. Dunn actually makes two different wines that I'll be discussing in this video, the first of which is the classic Dunn Howell Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon, and the second of which is the Dunn Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. I'll discuss each of these wines in turn. Last week I had the chance to visit Dunn again, and I sat down for a proper tasting and tried numerous different vintages of the Dunn Howell Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon. As with the last visit, I was greeted by an extremely friendly dog who must have remembered me, as he was definitely even more friendly this year than the last time I visited. The Dunn Howell Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon comes exclusively from Dunn's estate-grown fruit on Howell Mountain. This wine is always 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, and both of the Dunn wines mature for an impressive 32 months in 100% new French oak, and then spend another year in bottle before they're released. The wines also have less than 14% alcohol, typically 13.9% alcohol by volume, and there's various winemaking techniques that are implemented by the Dunns to ensure that this 14% threshold is not exceeded. I've previously recommended the outstanding 2019 Dunn Howell Mountain on this channel. Last week during my visit, I was able to taste that wine again, and it's still a wine that I highly recommend. So if that's not one that you've picked up and added to your collection yet, you definitely want to consider that one as well. The 2019 vintage is still the current release of the Dunn Howell Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon and will be for a few more weeks until they release the 2021 vintage. They were not able to produce a 2020 vintage due to the fires and the smoke damage on Howell Mountain, but fortunately I was able to get a sneak preview of the 2021 vintage, and that one is also an outstanding effort. 2021 was a fantastic vintage for Napa Valley generally, and the Dunn certainly crushed it in 2021. The 2021 Dunn Howell Mountain features flavors and aromas of blackberry, plum, licorice, menthol, and mixed spice. While this is definitely a powerful wine, the tannins were refined and there's ample acidity and freshness. This is a wine that will certainly cruise in your cellar for decades, but you don't have to wait that long to enjoy it. In fact, I also tasted the 2013 and 2015 vintages of Dunn Howell Mountain when I was there, and both of those vintages were showing well already. The family also advised that they tend to enjoy the Dunn Howell Mountain release between 10 and 15 years after the vintage. So certainly much more approachable at an earlier age than they were historically. While the 2021 Dunn Howell Mountain has not been released yet, it's my understanding that that wine will sell for close to $200 or so. And you should be able to get any of these wines that I'm discussing regarding Dunn from the winery directly, or they should be available in retail channels as well. Dunn also makes a second wine called the Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon that sells for around $120 per bottle. This wine is made in much the same way as the Howell Mountain bottling, except that about half the fruit comes from the valley floor and the other half comes from Howell Mountain. As such, this wine is much more approachable and capable of being enjoyed at a younger age than the Howell Mountain bottling. I tried the 2021 vintage of the Dunn Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon last week, and it was already extremely enjoyable. This is a wine that you need not age at all, but it will certainly cruise in your cellar for a decade or more as well. During my last visit to the winery a couple years ago, I tried the 2013 vintage, and it was still showing extremely well with no signs of fading. I know that many of you are also interested in visiting a number of the producers that I visit during my wine travels, so I asked Dunn about whether or not they're open for visitors, and they assured me that they were. So if you're interested in visiting Dunn Vineyards on Howell Mountain, Definitely reach out to them and schedule a visit for your next trip to Napa Valley.